enlightenment. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the fall edition of the Channel Marketing Academy. After our short summer break, we are back for fall is in session, learning again. So happy to be with all of you as we kick off this September session about talking about multiple ERP systems and how to market them because, marketing one just isn't enough. And when other organizations get involved, departments get involved, how do you please everyone? And as a people pleaser, that can be hard at times. So that's why I have three people who are here to talk about it in more detail about how they do it within their organizations. Before I introduce them, just a couple of housekeeping points. I want to say thank you to our CMA founders, the ERP and CRM software blog, and the partner marketing group for coming up with this brainchild and sticking with us for all of these years now. I guess I could put an S there. Please ask questions. I ask this every time, you can even come off mute or be really scary and come on video if you like. We'd love to see your face. If not, it's okay, just put it in the chat, your questions. We try to make this as interactive as possible for everyone, and because doing two things at once is hard for me, I have Anya and Michelle monitoring the chat, so if I miss a question, they will stop me at some point and ask the question for us. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our three panelists for today, Stephanie, Phil, and Nathaly. So Stephanie, why don't you kick us off and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm the Stephanie McColly. I'm with Crestwood Associates. Crestwood is a VAR of 27 years now, focused in the Microsoft and Acumatica space. And we're also an ISV, so it makes us a little bit unique in the space in that we're both straddling VAR and ISV products to some extent. My background specifically is in finance, marketing, and operations strategy. So marketing is not my first stab at the career world, but it's definitely an area that I specialize in and that I enjoy very much. So a lot of what I might speak to today may have to do with a whole ecosystem of things with marketing and then also just from a business stance. So I'm excited to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Great to have you. And we realize, and I'm saying this early, that marketing isn't just a science, it's an art, it's a science, and vice versa. So having that overview of everything is great. And I too am not a natural marketer, but we don't tell people that. So happy
It's safe
to
with me.
have you on board. Phil, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Philip Aquib, VP of Sales at Vantree Systems. Vantree is a business-to-business data integrator specializing in EDI and API integrations with various ERPs like Microsoft, SAP, Acumatica, and Sage. And yeah, my background has been in the sales and marketing space for, I would say, the last like 12 years or so. And I just have a strong passion in yeah, helping organizations reach their objectives. And in today's discussion, it's going to be, how to market into these multiple ERPs. So I'm hoping you guys will get some value out of this. And yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any questions afterwards.
Thanks. And last but definitely not least, Nathaly, introduce yourself.
Tanya, thank you for having me back. My name is Nathaly Salinas. I am a senior marketing manager. I have over 5 years of experience working with different ERP partners. I used to work with Acumatica NetSuite, and now I am currently working with Velosio. Velosio is one of the top Microsoft resellers in the US. So main focus is Microsoft business applications. And yeah, it's been very rewarding to be in the ERP kind of ecosystem, learning about how each ERP work differently depending on their audience, and I've been able to see all that. So
And I think that's a great segue why we invited you back to talk today. As the audience will see, we have a little bit of a VAR side and ISV side of it because they are different in how they go about it. So when we're talking about the other one, don't think you have to go and check your phone or whatever. It probably does apply to you as well, just in a different way. So I hope everyone finds this episode interesting. So let's kick this off with um, the first question being, how do you handle the relationship with each of your ERP publishers? We all talked about Microsoft, but between the others as well. So, Sage, Acumatica, NetSuite, just to name a few. But how do you guys go about it? How about you kick us off, Phil?
Sure. So I think answering this question with the marketing approach, right? There's a lot of things that need to happen in the background to bring a product to the market. But from a marketing perspective, I'm going to explain sort of the process from an ISV perspective, and this may change or vary, and maybe Stephanie and Nathaly can add more. But before working in this space, I used to work in the hospitality space, and when I thought about this answer, for some reason, I thought different kitchens, same recipe. So in the sense that, you do want to have something in place that is something that you can replicate across various ERPs. So yeah, each ERP publisher is like a different kitchen, but you've got to have the same recipe. So that's the same process essentially. And so yeah, I think that's really the approach. What matters most is knowing like how to adapt, right, to the different ERPs without really changing what you're known for. And this one I did end up using our friends at ChatGPT just to summarize. But it's this like 6 R's of publisher relationships. So the recipe, reference, reputation, revenue, resource, and repeat. So I'll send that in the chat afterwards. But basically, it's the recipe is you want to develop and certify your solution. So maybe for VARs, it'll be a bit different. You want to land your first pilot customer and turn it into a case study and a video testimonial. You want to execute that project perfectly and market your success. You obviously have to pay your fees and your dues with your ERP publisher. That's important and understand the economics of it all. And then you want to leverage the resources that are available to you through that publisher. So these could be tools, events, and the community, of course. And then you want to improve and cycle through this again. So that's the repeat. So if you execute on these 6 R's, I think you'll be successful in this space. And yeah, just remember that analogy: different kitchens, same recipe.
I will definitely be thinking about that next time I am cooking in my kitchen, and maybe sometimes it's a gas stove instead of a electric one. But I think it works as well for bars, and maybe Stephanie, you can go into a little more detail on that. But I don't think we're as far off as you think in our two worlds. So take it away, Steph.
That's true. Yeah, I agree. I think it comes down to basic relationship management principles. And one of the things you have to remember is that that relationship with an ERP publisher or any product line, by the way, that's a resource that's going to help you grow your business and you as a marketer in your role. So it's sort of twofold in those areas. And so when I think about it, the number one thing you've got to have prevalent with a publisher relationship is a dedicated internal champion, someone who owns the publisher relationship for your business. And they can bring that information, break it down for your team, and then your team can be successful between departments, taking the areas that they need to know about and execute on the best. You can't operate in silos in that relationship with a publisher. If only one person's connecting consistently, it's just never going to gain traction. And then when you're building that relationship with the publisher, it's really about establishing those clear relationship expectations. I like to call this avoiding stealth expectations. That's kind of like if there's guys on the call, that's where like your wife, she's thinking something but hasn't exactly said it just yet, but you should know it because it's an expectation, but it's stealthy because you just don't know what it is. We want to eliminate that, right? And what that's going to bring is the publisher has expectations of what they expect you to perform with. That's going to be revenue, brand messaging, material you should be using. And then you're going to have expectations of what you can get out of that publisher as your resource to help you drive the business forward and also help you specifically in your role. If you're a growing marketer, it's going to help you achieve that next level in your career. So you've got to think about things like funding, content. What can you be getting out of this relationship? Because it's two-sided. They're looking for what they can get out of you. There's things that you want to be getting out of them as well. And through that, the most pivotal part of it is going to be a communication cadence. You've got to have a routine of reviewing those performance metrics, a routine of knowledge transfer. Your publisher knows things that you don't know, and that's your fast track way to get information, to go to market, to learn about products, to upskill your team, to gain new content. That's your fast track way as a marketer to learn new things. So don't downplay that one. And then you really need to have a clear list of what you're trying to resolve. What are you up against? What do you need their help with? How can you really leverage that relationship to help you move things forward? So know that it's not just a relationship that's out there. It pays dividends to you if you really invest into it. And then the last thing I'll say about it is I really think participating in partner activities with your publisher, it's going to do wonders for you. If you're going to be the part, or if you're going to play the part, you got to be the part, right? So you need to be the part engaging in programs, knowing the activities going on, and being a little bit of a megaphone for that publisher, because that's how you're going to stand out across the channel with other VARs. So relationship management practices, for sure, stealth expectations, all those things kind of roll up into it. But I think that's how I would break it down the most simplistic way.
I think we have 7 R's now, and adding relationship to that list as well. I think it's so true that we forget sometimes that it has to go both ways for it to work. Like any good relationship, partnership, call it whatever you like, but having that open dialogue is key. And I think sometimes we forget that we have to be that, because it's humans on the other side as well, and that's how we set our standards and expectations. So that's all fun and dandy, but I can't say that a relationship is always easy, and it takes hard work as well. So, Nathaly, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced marketing multiple ERP solutions under one brand umbrella? Because it's nice to say that to one or the other, but when you're dating multiple people at the same time, I guess it gets tricky sometimes.
Well, I guess that's most of the struggles that as an ERP provider from working with different publishers face. Because one of the biggest challenge that I saw, not only with like Microsoft, but also when I was working with NetSuite and Acumatica partners, is that sometimes buyers get confused into why you are offering more than one ERP solution. So they are thinking, okay, which one is better, as opposed to which one is right for me. And at the same time, it kind of backtrack to the first question, because yeah, maybe the publisher wants you to do all these things, but do those things align with what your company goals are? Maybe sometimes you need to stop that relationship because it's not going the same way that your internal thing and that your internal goals are going. And the second thing that I will say that is probably very pressing is how you allocate resources and messaging and time to make sure that you promote like different publishers without kind of making people mad, right? Because every single team wants to promote the product that they are kind of trying to push out. But the reality is that yes, we have different products. Yes, we have maybe different slightly goals, but the reality is that there is one company and the messaging cannot overlap what the company as a whole want to do. So again, it's like how you balance messaging, resources, and also your internal, your brand's story to avoid any confusion. And of course, if you get to the point that this partnership is not really working, it's better to say no than keep working with something that is not aligning what you want. Because at the end of the day, the publisher wants you to sell more. But if your internal thing is going to a different direction, that's when you need to kind of pivot and say, okay, no, this is not working, and it's fine. It's fine to say no. And honestly, one of the biggest thing that I would say that for the most part, ERP resellers kind of fail is because they want to have way too many ERP solutions. But if they are not focused on industry and if they are not focused on a specific problems, it's not gonna resonate. It's better to be great at one thing that be like standard for other things. So that would be my biggest advice to especially new partners that are out there kind of like trying to manage different ERPs.
Yeah, and I think when we so want to like gain more business, do more, like see the opportunities out there, but sometimes less is more. And having that focus and having that clear messaging makes it easier for everyone to understand as well. So I think that comes back to being real and honest in that relationship of going like, is this going to work or not work? I think that is going to be a message we are going to see throughout our chat today. So, can you share any examples of positioning two or more systems to different customer segments? To your point, Nathaly, when you were talking about, okay, well, this one is like you need to have your segments or you have to have your industries well thought out. So, do you have an example that you can share with us in regards to that?
Yeah, and honestly, that's an easy question. It gets very tricky when you ask me how you promote this two different ERP softwares to the same audience. That's where it gets a little bit more complicated. But again, going back to the industry and going back to the niche is it makes a huge difference. But for the purpose of your question, so we have two ERP solutions. We promote Dynamics 365 Business Central, which is more for like mid-market companies. So the messaging there is focused on growth, fast deployment, and also the availability or the flexibility of staying in between the same Microsoft ecosystem, which most of the companies that are looking for these solutions is because they are trying to migrate from QuickBooks or maybe from Xerox or from any other accounting solutions that were great at the time they needed when they were a startup, but now they just need to move. So that's kind of like the mid market. But we also market Dynamics 365 Finance, which is more for like global companies. They have multiple supply chains, they work in different continents, the currency is different. So the messaging there is about scaling, compliance, and advanced functionality because that's what they need. So it's not like one of the other is better. It's just that is right for you or not.
All right. And if we have time at the end, we might get back to the trickier question about, you know, doing two ERPs of the same segment and how that works. But stay tuned. If we have time at the end, we still have a lot of questions. But Stephanie, what about you? Do you have any examples that worked or didn't work in your case?
For sure, and I totally agree. A common strategy in ERP is to position systems based on business size and industry specific needs. And that in turn allows, vendors to address varying levels of complexity, things like integration requirements also, and scalability. And so what we see in our practice with Business Central and Acumatica, they're both two cloud-based ERPs. They overlap in the small to mid-sized business space, but they're differentiated by target segments. And this is oftentimes where I see maybe the complexity of being a marketer behind the scenes. You really have to know your target segment and this product well. And I think that often gets underappreciated. But Business Central in particular focuses on small businesses, usually 1 to 250 employees, and that benefits from the Microsoft ecosystem integration, while Acumatica targets specifically mid-market companies, 50 to 500 employees, specifically in industry verticals like construction, manufacturing, distribution. So what that does is it emphasizes the flexibility and unlimited users. So they're very competitive in nature, which was probably another topic of how do you compete both systems in one, right? But the positioning, I think, actually makes it easier. I agree on this, to avoid direct competition because you're highlighting the unique value propositions of each product. And it's the art of knowing your list and knowing that target market and the product that you're trying to serve up to them. And it sounds easy, does hard, I guess.
No, no one said our jobs were easy, and I think it's that delicate balancing act between the two, and how transparent are you with the other vendor as well on who you're targeting for which segments. I imagine that could be another hour-long chat, or we can add it to the end. if anyone has any questions, and this is usually where I say chat is pretty quiet, guys and gals. If you have any questions, I'm sure you do, or things that you're noticing as challenges in your business as well, please don't hesitate to ask our panelists today. So this session is for you as much as it is for those who are going to be listening afterwards. So. Um, Okay, so we talked a lot about I think it was even before we hit record on there's a lot of events and we're moving a lot more to being in person and using that, we were cooped up for too long and now everyone is looking back for authenticity and is that a real person that I'm talking to and their authentic selves. But there's already a lot in each space. How do you juggle which events to go to besides cloning yourself? How how do you manage that? Because or else you just become a road warrior and only have ketchup in your fridge. So Phil, how have you dealt with that in the past?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that events are at the heartbeat of the ecosystem. At least that's the way I see it. Like I met Anya at an event, and we've kept our relationship ever since then. And a lot of the folks that we engage with, it's really these relationships are sparked at these events. But yeah, so they're not just marketing activities; they're really at the heartbeat of the ecosystem. And yeah, you don't want to miss those events. Like that's really the key here. Like it's really if you miss those events, it's a missed chance to strengthen those relationships that you have already and then spark new ones. And so I think it's important to understand what ERP you want to be in, what ERP ecosystem you want to be in. Usually each ecosystem has like a user event and a partner event. And at the same time, there could be some for different regions, like a North American show or a European show. So this touches on what Nathaly said about like focusing on what you're good at, right? You don't want to get spread too thin. So if you're not able to consistently attend those events for that ERP, whether it's user show or partner show in that region, then it's not worth investing in it the first time. Like you really have to maintain that going forward because relationships aren't built just at one show. It's really over the course of many, many years. And so the way that we do it is it all starts with a budget, right? Like you have to understand the economics behind it. Shows are not cheap to attend. Like if you're bringing in like 5, 10 people to go to shows, you're looking at accommodation, flights, per diems, all kinds of things go into it. And yeah, so that's the first thing is you got to understand the economics behind it. Then you have to identify the team. So who's going to be in that lineup of people that are going to join you at the show? So we're talking sales, marketing, partnerships, and technical folks. And in those user shows, you have also like project managers and account managers who are there to maintain those relationships with the customers that you have. So that might even require a higher investment. So every person basically has a role on the team at those shows. And yeah, there's a ton of preparation that goes into it. So usually these shows have deadlines where you have to start booking things. So you got to choose your booth, you got to choose what kind of AV materials, you got to figure out how you're going to get your equipment over there. There's like processing fees to receive your equipment, to set up your equipment. And so the coordination is absolutely insane. I can't even imagine the larger organizations that are out there, how much effort and time and money that goes into this. But it's incredible, like all the effort that goes into these shows. And then after that, it's about execution, right? So when you're at those shows, like if this is almost like the Super Bowl of all marketing activities of the year, right? So you have to make sure you're on point. You got to know what your goals are. Everyone needs to understand what their responsibilities are at that show. Like, are you looking to find more partners? Are you looking to find more customers? Are you looking to just maintain customers? Like everyone essentially needs a playbook for the show and a plan that they can execute on. And then I would say once the show is done, before the show is done, lead capturing is probably the most important thing. Like once you're there, how are you going to capture notes and contact information? Because then everyone goes home, and then you have to maintain those relationships. So there needs to be a way to capture all of that. And then once you come home, it's all about putting those sequences in place to keep in touch with those people and categorizing those lists, right? Because if you have different segments of customers, different product offerings, and different ways of categorizing those leads, you have to have those done quickly so that when you get back, you can get into the sequences right away, but sending them the right message at the right time. And then I would say is meet with your team internally and gather as much feedback as possible about what they think went well and what they think can be improved. Because again, you're going to be there next year, and you're going to be doing this at other events within that year where you can implement those changes and see results. So, yeah, the key takeaway here is like events are not isolated. They are really like a momentum builder throughout the year, and it's really at the center of your marketing activities. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think I'll chime in if that's okay. I think all of them are valid points. And it comes to this bigger topic I hear oftentimes when I'm in roundtables with other marketers. But I want to remind everybody, we all have two of the same things that are very limited resources, but the most important resources that we have to offer, which is our time and our brain. So as a marketer, you have to be really select in where you're spending your time and placing your focus and allocating your intention, right? And so with these events, you'll know not all events are created equal and are going to serve the same purpose. And depending on where you are in your role or in your company, maybe spinning up a lot of events at first makes sense if you're brand new into your role versus strategically selecting different ones as you get a little more developed into the market that you're in. That could make sense. But also remember, there's also limitations. There's only so much of a budget that you can make happen with these events, to Phil's point. And so you have to get really scrappy with it. Take that into combination. You only have 24 hours in the day and places you can spend your time. So think about how you can get creative, but still get the same impact from it. Rather than attending and showcasing at the event, maybe you just attend the event. And maybe instead of just attending, perhaps you do a small cocktail hour before the event, or maybe you don't even attend the event. Maybe just do a cocktail hour and invite people to it. You can still get the same return with just different scrappy efforts. So that's definitely worth something to think about when it comes to events. It's definitely how we approach it in different ways because we can't be at all of the events. And, going back to also the fact of your time and your focus, these events should serve a purpose. If they're not serving a purpose to move something forward that you're specifically focused on, they're not a good use of your time. There are other things that are a good use of your time.
Love it. I think we forget how strategic that we have to look at every aspect of marketing and events. It is the biggest part of our budget, and it's not just showing up. It's everything before and after. And I love me a scrappy marketer and how to get the most out of the smallest budget. So yes, and shameless plug, go back and listen to our other ones on in-person events, on even online events. We are saying that we want to still be human, but this still works because you're still seeing a face, we're still showing up, and it's not something that's recorded. So think about how you can be creative and scrappy and without having to clone yourself and not sleep for the next 1 year or two to get things up and running. So I will use this as my cue for a commercial break. So I want to say thank you to the CMA patron sponsors. A special welcome and thank you to Doug, who is our latest sponsor to be added to our list. Also, a huge thank you and continued support from Partner Talks, MSDW, Vicinity, Marketery, OMSI, and UST Pay. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to keep offering these for free and keep sharing information within this community. So thank you again. And if you are interested in sponsoring and keeping our lights on here, I'm sure someone will put the link in the chat before. So Thank you again to everyone. And as a little heads up to those who are members of the ERP or CRM software blog, they are introducing a new package for helping companies get even more exposure on LinkedIn. So we were talking about being scrappy and linking to events.
Mhm.
This might be a good time to reach out to Anya and ask her for more details there. So that was my quick commercial break. Hopefully you guys weren't on your phones and you were like really interested in continuing this chat. So let's keep it going. So now we talked a bit about differentiation, and that question before came up about, it's easy when the industry aligns with the product, but how do you balance the need for differentiation at the risk of cannibalizing your different ERP products? So, still keeping everybody happy, but without, putting putting baby in the corner, let's put it that way. So, Nathaly, how do you do it?
Well, I think you probably answered that question with your in the
My
same
intro?
question because because honestly it all depends on like the industry. It all depends on the niche. If you know exactly that, for example, we also promote NetSuite and Business Central. They are competitors. But we are not gonna go out there and just promote them to the same audience because then we are gonna cannibalize both solutions. But we have a specific solutions that we build specifically for those solutions. So we have Progressos, which is built inside Business Central and it's just for project-based organizations. So there is no competition there because NetSuite has something completely different for projects. We also have Silverleaf built inside Business Central, which is for agribusiness and cannabis solution. So again, same product, but because we have the industry IP, we are able to go to market in a way different way that we do for NetSuite. For NetSuite, on the other hand, we have the red one, which is one solution for the food service, food, sorry, food device manufacturing. So again, we have the same the features kind of similar, but the industry is completely different. So the messaging is different and the audience is gonna be different. So as long as you identify which solution is best for the company, for like what is your target audience, you are going to be able to avoid that. The biggest issue that I have seen, again, in the past I used to work with a lot of NetSuite partners, and for the most part they were all kind of trying to promote the same NetSuite, but remember, you are competing again against the publisher, you are also competing against other ERP solutions, and you are competing against other partners. So you need to really be strategic. And there were some partners that back to the industry focus approach. The ones that were super niche, there was one that did RVs, NetSuite for RVs. They have tons of clients because nobody is focusing on RVs. So again, the more niche you are, you might think, well, but the audience is smaller. Maybe I don't want to go that route. As long as you do your market research and there is enough people for you to target, don't get afraid that that's the only solution you provide because that only solution is going to make you the expert in that industry. And that's all you need. So I think that that's is basically identify what product is best for each for what industry and then kind of run from there as opposed to focusing on functionality because if we focus only on functionality we are all gonna promote the same product and it's not going to go well.
No, we want things to go well. And while you were speaking, I was thinking about prospects that come in who are like, I've heard about Velosio, but which product is best for me? So I will add that to the end if we have time to how do you use your brand as the entry point and then kind of align them afterwards. I'm sure it's kind of everything that you mentioned before, but I was like, oh, that's something that you see as well. Like we're talking, you already know, but when people come to you, I'm sure that's a whole other bag. So I will squirrel that away for later. But we will keep going with some of our other questions that we have right now. And how do you how do you ensure that your clients understand the difference between your ERP offerings without going too much into technical detail? Because sometimes we all do it in the B2B space. We're all in the IT. We get right to the functionalities of this does this or that does that. How do you encourage it, discourage it, or embrace it when you're talking to clients, Phil?
Yeah, this is a really good question, and I think it comes down to a very important skill that any marketer or salesperson needs to have, which is listening. So, at the end of the day, you need to be able to understand what are the challenges that the organizations that you're talking to are facing, and then kind of go from there, right? So you got to start with their story, not your solution, because ERP selection is, extremely overwhelming, and your job is to simplify that, right? Not to complicate it. And so you got to start listening, size of the organization, the industry, which Nathaly touched on, geography, right? Localization is critical as well. And then, unique processes, and then also the goals of the organization. So when you spend more time listening, whether that's at the shows or you engage with your sales teams, hey, what are customers asking for these days, And then when you start looking at the number, it's like, hey, like we've gotten like, I don't know, 10 inbound leads this month that are specifically in like manufacturing. Then you collect information from your sales teams or from those calls, and then you can kind of tailor the solution and the marketing pitch based on that. And so it's really about like yeah, it's kind of like real estate, right? Like if you talk to a family, right, and you want to help them buy a house, you can't start showing them like, okay, here's what the, plumbing is going to look like and all this stuff. You really got to start with like, hey, how do you want to live? And then you can kind of work at, how you're going to make that happen for them. So yeah, so I think if you can, focus on size, industry, geography, their desired outcomes, and then from there, you'll kind of shortlist the ERP. It'll either be one or the other. And then from there, you can look at, okay, what can I do to tailor the solution to their unique business processes with like very simple and visual, diagrams. There's nothing worse than walking through a list of business processes like one by one. It really needs to be, mapped out. And so, yeah, for me, it's like, yeah, you got to just focus on listening to your customers and your prospects, and then go from there.
I wrote it down, start with their story. I think every time I pull a nugget away, and this might be my favorite, is like we sometimes forget as marketers that we need to listen first. And yeah, we're about we all get out there and we try to make as much noise as possible, but sometimes turning it the other way is equally important. So I'm putting that in my highlight reel for this session. So I hope you guys all did as well because you're listening and you're absorbing, like what Phil mentioned. So we'll keep trugging along now. And how about you share some strategies about what worked best in aligning sales and marketing and the product team and how to have that unified messaging? Or let's look at the flip side. How do you handle the conflicts when different teams want to promote one more than the other? So we will go into a bit of conflict management, or how do we we talked about strategies around industries, but I'm sure there's some overlap sometimes as well. So, Stephanie, why don't you let us know how you guys have worked on that internal conflict?
I would be happy to. This is honestly a business operations and kind of a cultural question. And so less of an effort that marketing can control, but you can heavily influence it. And so, as you think about this, you have to identify who owns the messaging framework in your company. You've got to agree on it at the highest level with your leadership team, your management team, because you have to get buy-in and support behind it. That person is now the champion with that messaging framework who's going to beat the drum for the rest of the team to set pace to. And so they can't be someone who hates following up. This person's got to beat the drum. They're following up consistently. There's a pattern to it. This is our messaging framework. They've got to be somebody who can inspect what they expect and create feedback loops to provide a course of correction. So for example, if you own the messaging framework for your organization, you have to build it into a presentation slide deck of sorts. Maybe it has scripts that need to be used in the sales cycle. Then you've got to inspect what you expect, join that presentation cycle in the sales cycle and see how it goes. That presentation, you should really be scoring it. How did it go? Did we use the messaging framework that should be used? Are we using the right materials? Was it presented well? Is it presented with clarity and consistency? There's key factors that indicate what a good presentation looks like and if it's using the right content. As marketers, we don't do it enough. We don't inspect what we expect the team to be using. But it's that scorecard after that presentation, you can go back and say, hey, good approach. Here's how we scored this one. I think we can do a better job on the messaging framework. Then you go back and you beat the drum and you say, this is the messaging framework we should be using. Let's try it again on the next one. But then on the conflict side, you have to remember the right fit for the client is what matters most, not the product you're trying to sell, not a target you're trying to hit. Take care of the client first, and the numbers are going to come. They're going to roll in all the areas that you need them to. But also on that note, sales is all about meritocracy, in my opinion. So if I want a BC deal sold, I'm going to give it to the lead salesperson who I know can close that BC deal for me and guarantee it. And if I need an Acumatica deal sold, I'm going to put that right over to the Acumatica person and say, go at it. You can use their bias as your benefit if you're more strategic with it. And I highly recommend it. It works every time.
Bias as your benefit. That is another nugget that is going to be bookmarked in my list today. And yeah, I think we forget that we don't just have to be strategic on which events we go to, but internally we have to use that same strategic know-how or cunningness or whatever we want to call it, and work it to our advantage internally. Nathaly, what kind of strategies have worked best for you in getting everyone to row in the same direction?
Well, I'll say that is a very challenging question because it can go very sideways very quickly. But the best way to approach it, and that's because as the company grows, you feel more like we need to make sure that everybody has the same messaging and that the solution is promoted the same way, regardless of what was happening before. And that happens a lot of the times too, that sometimes we start promoting things because of the way that we think that is gonna resonate. But to Stephanie's point, it's about how the user actually use it. Maybe it's a use that you didn't even think about it. Maybe they don't need to know that you have 4 licenses for one product, as long as they know that it's gonna have all the functionalities. So it's kind of course, first of all, you need to identify what is your ideal client profile. From there, okay, based on as a company, that we know what is our ideal client profile. From there, we need to identify, okay, based on of the products that we have, which one fit better our industry, revenue, geolocalization, kind of all of the things that matter for you, how you can map everything together. So when you are working on the messaging hierarchy, you can see, okay, the brand message has to be at the top, which is the brand story of your company. And then in the middle, you have the platform solution. And then at the bottom is the solution, right? So how you can kind of cascade that, and really when conflicts come, you kind of go back to that framework, and from there it's easy to know, okay, well, this is what happened. And I'm not saying that that's set in stone because things change so fast. Now we have AI. Now people are not even, they are not even in our website. They are everywhere but in our website. So how we can make sure that the AI system is also giving information to these buyers to visit our website to position us as the best solution for what they need. Again, I don't want to be the best of everything. I need to be the best for the industry or for the niche that I'm trying to target. And that's how the way that is gonna make sense, right? And again, right now, as technology continues evolving and more AI is kind of taking over a lot of the things that we are currently doing, there is gonna be a place where you don't really need to do anything on your website. You just need to create valuable content so people can find it from Gartner, from CDC, from all of these relevant companies that have trust, and that's how your company is gonna be fine. But again, it's about providing value. It's about knowing what is best for your client or for your end user, as opposed to how they want to see me, because sometimes those two don't match. But we need to make sure that they match so the buyers get what they need without having to go through different roadblocks.
And can we just have a little side clap for, okay, we talked about AI. I was worried we were going to go a whole hour with like just talking about humans. So I'm glad we got that one in there. And we know that it's an important part. And even though we shouldn't ignore that, like we have our relationship and human contact is so important. But the reality is we still have this robot on the other side kind of leveling the playing field or not leveling the playing field, depending on which side you're on. So thanks for calling that one out for us, Nathaly. And my last question, I like adding, how we can give back to the community and how we can move forward. So what advice would you give to organizations who are just at the beginning to market multiple ERP systems? How do they, or they've been in talks about adding another one to their portfolio? What advice? It can be one, it could be multiple, whatever your heart desires. Phil, what would you recommend to our audience today?
Yeah, so obviously this answer depends on like, your resources, your company objectives. So you may choose to accelerate this if you want, but here are my 2 cents. So it's a little bit like anything in life. You got to learn to walk before you run a marathon. So it's tempting, obviously, to be everywhere at once, but if you spread yourself too thin, then you risk disappointing your customers. And Nathaly talked about that a lot, about like just making sure you're focused and what your intent is. But from my perspective, the story really starts with, your ERP, right? So what do you want to focus on? So you pick one that aligns with your team's strengths because, early wins are important in this. These are a lot of investments that you're going to be doing. So you want to show your executive teams and stakeholders that, hey, this is working. So you need to prove to yourself and to the market that you can deliver on your promises. And then once you've done that, you got to build up your references. So those first customers who can really vouch for you. So you tell their stories in a video, online, in writing. You show the ecosystem that you can deliver. That's really the next big step, and that becomes a pillar for every other marketing asset going forward. And then that's when you really earn the right to expand. So when you do that, you don't just, copy paste. There's obviously a playbook that you need to adapt, but what you're looking for is to build on those strengths. And so, yeah, my advice is don't rush. Build your roots in one ecosystem, and then branch out from there. It's obviously slower in the beginning, but in the end, yeah, that's how you build a reputation that lasts.
I like that, built to last, and how do you build your roots? And I think that's such a good reminder too for those we always think we have to go faster or it's not fast enough. But if we don't have those roots and we don't build that base in one community, it'll be hard to build that playbook and adapt for the next one. So thank you. And Stephanie, what kind of advice would you give our audience?
Yeah, I'm reminded you're not the product that you sell. ERPs come and go. Just like other products. If you think of face products, hair products, any sort of product that's out there in the world, it comes and it goes. But your brand is the unique differentiator that you need to build a scalable and repeatable model with. You can pluck out one ERP at any given time, plug in another, and your business should continue as usual. And so when you think about that, you want to build an overarching brand narrative that positions your organizations as a one-stop ERP partner or a one-stop, ISV partner, while drilling down into product specifics. So conduct thorough market research and customer segmentation. If there's anything you got out of today, it's surely that. Position each ERP uniquely to prevent that cannibalization. develop tailored marketing strategies for each of those segments, of course. Leverage the integrated and sort of multi-channel tactics to make sure that you are using that overarching brand narrative to really support your organization with. And then you have to measure, iterate, and scale it. Setting those clear KPIs for lead quality per segment or conversion rates, cross-sell opportunities, those analytics are going to help you monitor that cannibalization and make sure that what you're doing works well and can be scalable and repeatable for the future. But remember, clients don't really care what the product does technically or functionally. They care about the result they're going to get from it. You can have an entire conversation with a client about their pain points, everything they're going through, and how an ERP can solve it without ever showing them the functionality, and you've already got them hooked. The functionality is just that extra part. I talked about face products, hair products. Face products are meant to, add hydration to your skin, prevent fine lines and wrinkles, do a lot of things that you're looking for a solution for. In the end, a lot of them do the same thing. It's just they've got different features, maybe that do it a little differently. Maybe one has shea butter and one has coconut oil, and you like that because you're a little bit more of a conscious buyer and you want to get into the details. But at a high level, you know that it's going to help your skin or it's going to help your hair. Those products are helpful. The same thing applies with ERP, just at a much larger, more technical and functional scale. So, you're not the product you sell. Your brand is unique, and you want to make it so that it's repeatable and scalable for the future, no matter what product you're selling.
Well, I think that is a great way to end our session is that, our face, even though I might need a little more shea butter in my life and some maybe fillers and Botox, I think that the end solution, and we have to remember that, especially when we're marketing to multiple ERP systems. So thank you all. We have a couple minutes left. So I did see a long question before. I don't know, Mike, if you want to come off mute, if you had any, if I kind of ignored you because I knew we were going to come to it later. Are there any more details that you wanted about this, or did we suffice?
I feel fully satisfied. Everybody did. I felt silly because like 5 minutes later, everybody got to exactly my question about marketing the different ERPs and trying to keep that kind of doing that segmentation both for your customers and for your ERP partners or your ERP providers. One thing I didn't hear about that I don't know if it's relevant in your world. I'm a single ecosystem business, so I don't have to worry about this. But in terms of your partnership with, say, a Microsoft and a NetSuite, do you find that in partnering with them, when you want to distinguish which ERP is better for a different industry, can you talk a bit about navigating the diplomatic relationship with the providers, about what you're saying about their products versus each other?
Yeah, I can jump in pretty quickly on that one. Our products are very competitive with one another. And that's that stealth expectation where you go back to the beginning and you outline exactly what does a publisher expect of you. When you outline that and they see that you're on track, it's really a non-negotiation or a non-topic because they know that you're pushing the product, you're hitting your targets, and things are just kind of jiving along the way. It's when one starts performing better or they start to see a bias that it gets concerning. But if you go back to those expectations and you're constantly meeting, constantly reiterating the things that you're doing for that specific product line, it almost becomes a non-topic to some extent. Nathaly, I see you shaking your head. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, so we are a Microsoft house, right? I would say 80% of everything we do is Microsoft oriented. But we still have a partnership with NetSuite. That doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just that they know that for NetSuite, we have these resources, this budget allocated every month. Of course, you want to make sure that you have a good relationship, that regardless of which one is providing like a bigger support, you still meet their deadlines. You say that you are gonna accomplish something that they require, because depending on the partnership, they need you to do certain activities or meet certain budget or do certain things. So you just need to make sure that you follow up and that you don't let the relationship to be deprecated because now you are paying more attention to the other partners. So it's like a balance into I know that 80% of my time or my resources are going to this partner, 20% to this partner, having that clear expectation with the partner, and also making sure that even if you notice that the other partner feels bad because you are not really promoting their products or maybe things are not really working out, it's better for you to say, you know what, maybe it's good for me to retire this solution because we are not going anywhere. And that's okay, again, like I said before, it's fine, but you don't want to get to the point that they fire you because then that's gonna be very bad as a
Mhm.
company. So just make sure that you do your due diligence and before, of course, you mentioned this, Tania, like what are the best advice that you can be or the final advice is make sure that you work with a partner that you like
Mhm.
the ecosystem, that you enjoy meeting with them because again, I've been in different partnerships and I'll say that they look very different. So just make sure
Yeah.
that whatever partnership you select, you do your research, you attend their events, and from there you know what? I love this ecosystem because you don't want to be working with an ecosystem that is not that is not aligned with what you are trying to do. So
Very well said. And I think that is even more important when we have so many choices. You still remain the face behind your brand, like Stephanie mentioned earlier. So being authentic to what are your values and what you put forward is a great way to end this session. So for those of you who are interested in learning more about this topic with the data behind it, because it is, nice to know what our benchmarks are. Learn from other ISVs and VARs who sell across multiple technologies. In the Technology Marketing Benchmark and Trends Report, have a look at it. I go back every once in a while, like, am I crazy? Am I doing things the right way? I think it's a great benchmark and baseline for us to look at. So if you haven't already looked at it, please download it as well. So next month we will be talking about niche industry marketing. So I think that is a good segue of where we started today. So that will be on October 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So please join us then. If you haven't already signed up, please do. I know October is a big events month for everyone. But it is before Community Summit, and it's not too late to sign up for that if you haven't already. We hope to see you there on the pre-event starts on October 19th. So finally, our manifestation about a book club has come to fruition. We have our second book that we will be talking about later this month on September 26th. So mark your calendars for that as well. Create once, distribute forever. It's really casual, so don't feel like if you haven't read the whole book, I listened to the last one, so if you're not a reader, don't be shy to come and listen in as well. And thank you very much, everyone. If you've missed a session, good or bad excuse, you can go back and check them out on the channelmarketingacademy.com. Sharing is caring, so please share this with the rest of your team as well. Thank you again. Be a sponsor, be a panelist. Please join our community. Okay, see you next month. Bye, everyone. Bye.
thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.